9/11 Truth and Palestinian Rights. George Galloway in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. November 23rd, 2010.
We sent bin Laden to Afghanistan. We paid for bin Laden and the fathers of the Taliban and the so-called Mujahideen. The problem with these people is they didn't read the novel Frankenstein to the end. They didn't know that when you create a monster, the monster moves out of your control, out of your control, out of your control. That's why it's called a monster.
Note that Mr. Galloway suggests with this remark that at some point the aforementioned proxies and agents were left to their own devices by the CIA and their accomplices.
If they had read it, they would have realized that the bankrupt policy of my enemy's enemy is my friend is not just amoral, it's immoral, and it almost always backfires, as it has done in Afghanistan.
Whilst the Cold War dispute over Afghanistan did indeed create a scenario whereby the Soviet Union's enemies were the US and British government's friends, the evidence suggests that contemporarily, the proper analogy is, my enemy is my friend.
We have a right to insist that the kind of outrage inspired from, if not organized from.
Note that Galloway implies that it's possible that the outrage, i.e. 9/11, might not have been organized by Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan.
If not organized from, the Tora Bora in the past does not happen again.
If we can go ahead.
Mr. Galloway, I'd like to thank you very much for coming to Calgary. It's an honor to be in your presence, sir. I'd like to thank you for all the education you give me, because I've listened to your TalkSport radio shows avidly, and I've contributed, and you may even recognize my voice. When Cynthia McKinney was here, sir, for the trial of Splitting the Sky, the man to my left, who attempted a citizen's arrest on George W. Bush, I said to her, Cynthia, George is right about Cuba, he's right about Palestine, he's right about Iraq, he's right about Afghanistan. Why is he so ill-informed on 9/11? And why isn't he like you, Cynthia McKinney?
My question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th.
Why isn't he like Ken O'Keefe, who speaks out on 9/11?
As 9/11, which is the be-all end-all of manipulation, to buy into the notion that Osama bin Laden and 19 hijackers are responsible for this event is the height of lunacy. It is the most ridiculous conspiracy of all.
So my question to you, sir, is when did Dr. Frankenstein's monster become independent? When did the CIA leave Al-Qaeda to their own devices, sir? But I must add, I did read your article, recent article on the Daily Record on September 13th, where you said, I support the demand for a new and proper investigation into 9/11. You listed several reasons why. And likewise, in an interview with William Rodriguez, you said the same thing. If 9/11 truth means you don't believe the official story, then I'm a 9/11 truther. You said, and I'm quoting you pretty accurately from that YouTube, which I watched this morning, sir.
Every theory can be described by someone who doesn't particularly support it as a conspiracy theory. So we should call it this 9/11 truth movement. We should call it a group of people who don't accept the official version. Well, in that case, I'm one of them, because I don't accept the official version either.
Thank you. And so, why do you say different things to Cynthia McKinney on that issue? And as exemplified in Montreal recently, sir, when you tried to refute my friend's claims about Al-Qaeda, that Mohammed Atta was wired $100,000.
And the ISI chief was the guy who wired $100,000 to Mohammed Atta.
The contribution about 9/11, I'm sorry to say, is crazed conspiracy theory madness.
Which is a fact, well documented, reported in the India Times. Thank you, sir.
Well, obviously I can't make another 1-hour speech, so I can't do justice to these very important questions. I can only, in summary, give you my honest views on them. Let me start, I'm afraid, with the bad news for the first question. What your friend in Montreal said, and you have identified yourself with, is that following a meeting between the head of Pakistan's intelligence agency and the head of the CIA the day before 9/11, $100,000 was wired to the lead hijacker, Mohammed Atta. Just think how stupid a statement that is. First of all, what good would $100,000 do the day before 9/11 to a man who was about to incinerate himself and thousands of others in a plane flown into a building?
Mr. Galloway here assumes that Mohammed Atta boarded a plane on 9/11.
Second, if the United States government was going to give money to the lead hijacker flying the plane, why would they do it by wire? Why would they do it in the presence of Pakistan's chief of intelligence? And the idea that something is documented because it was reported in the India Times is just about the stupidest comment I've ever heard at a public meeting. Can't you work out why the India Times might have a motive in implicating the head of Pakistan's intelligence agency in one of the biggest acts of mass murder in modern history? Can't you work that out?
It's possible that the Times of India would have a motive to discredit the Pakistani ISI. But why would CNN report this story? And why would ABC News report this story? And why would the Wall Street Journal have also reported this story? Just to name a few sources, if this was untrue.
I'm not saying that George W. Bush was not wicked enough to kill his own people for a broader political gain. I'm not saying...
Mr. Galloway puts words in my mouth here. I don't recall suggesting that George W. Bush had anything to do with planning 9/11.
Neither am I saying that the United States government and its agencies have never done such a thing before. I'm saying that George W. Bush and his administration are too stupid to have organized such a vast conspiracy and conceal it from the world for all of these years since. Look, Bin Laden told you that he did it. Bin Laden praised the people who did it and described them as his brothers. If something looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
If the confession videos look like forgeries, if Bin Laden doesn't look like Bin Laden, and if the experts say they're forgeries, then they're probably forgeries.
Far better to ask why this Islamist, fundamentalist, Salafist, jihadist extremism has gone forth and multiplied.
Islamic terrorists have grown and multiplied, according to Mr. Galloway. Although the media tells us this incessantly, it is in fact an unproven defamation against Islam. Mr. Galloway's blowback theory requires him to prescribe to one of the core mythologies of the global war on terror.
That's a better question. And the answer to it is what I spent 60 minutes trying to explain. Frankly, I'm sorry because you're a regular listener and you're even reading my newspaper columns in Scotland, my God.
And your books.
You're stalking me.
And your books.
All
three of them, sir.
Hurt you and upset you, but
because I like you.
Just sound mad. It just sounds insane, and it allows our enemies to laugh at us and ridicule us. I don't believe that we know all the facts about 9/11 any more than I believe
We know the facts of who killed Bobby Kennedy, or who killed Jack Kennedy, or Malcolm X, or Martin Luther King. I'm in favour of as many inquiries as we can have into the activities of the American government and its secret state, but not because I believe that the government of America set out to murder 3,000 of its own citizens, not because they're not wicked enough, but because such a thing could never be kept secret. And once that secret was out, it would be the end of the political system in the United States. Wouldn't be the end of the president, wouldn't just be the end of the Republican Party, it would be the end of the political system of the United States itself.
It's exactly because we've had whistleblowers, such as Sybil Edmonds and Kevin Ryan, that millions of citizens are indeed questioning the tenability of the US political system, which is predicated on a permanent war economy.
And thousands of people would have to be in on this conspiracy. And it's just stupid to imagine that that could be true. So don't call me a 9/11 truther.
Well, in that case, I'm one of them, because I don't accept the official version either.
I think 9/11 truthers are largely insane. Call me somebody who is ready to support more independent investigation into the great crime that took place on 9/11. Now that I've got that off my chest, let me...
All right, so in the interest of time, we're going to take only 4 more questions. Keep them short, please, so that way it goes by a bit smoother. And anything regarding 9/11, just kind of skip over that. It's already been answered. So just to add...
This decree that 9/11 was off limits during a talk about both Afghanistan and free speech beggars belief. Moreover, the idea that my question had been answered was inaccurate. My main question was... And when did the CIA leave Al-Qaeda to their own devices, sir? Mr. Galloway only chose to respond to the observation I had made about his baseless dismissal of my friend's question about the $100,000 reportedly wired to Mohammed Atta prior to 9/11.
Hit us with the first question.
Yes, I'm Professor Anthony Hall from Globalization Studies at the University of Lethbridge. There is a terrible schism in the anti-war movement, which is weakening us. And I want to point to one of the heroes of the anti-war movement in the world, and certainly in Calgary. Splitting the Sky is sitting to my left. Splitting the Sky attempted a citizen's arrest of George W. Bush when he chose to come to Calgary for his first speech. And many people in this room...
Yeah.
Cynthia McKinney, I went to Paris to meet with Cynthia McKinney. She came here and was part of the proceedings. The former Attorney General of the United States, Ramsey Clark, came for the proceedings. I must say, we were in the law school. Not one person from the law school showed up to greet the former Attorney General of the United States. Sir, there is a deep schism having to do with shooting from the hip comment. Professors, my colleague, David Ray Griffin, has devoted 10 books. He is a conscientious professor. These are complex matters. They do not give themselves over to words like insane. Cynthia McKinney is not insane, sir, is not mad. Splitting the Sky is not mad. My graduate student, Josh Blakeney, who introduced me to your reputation, who's doing his MA thesis on the origins of the global war on terror, is not mad. The origins of this situation that we're in, this never-ending warfare, how it began and the circumstances that under which it began, it's very complex. And I want to appeal to you to reconsider and speak with more carefulness and not make splits in the anti-war movement, to support Splitting the Sky, David Ray Griffin, Joshua Blakeney. We are key to the anti-war movement.
Well, you may very well be key to the anti-war movement, but I have a responsibility to tell you the truth as I see